One. We're back at it here on the Alaska Sports Talk podcast. So glad to have you along wherever you tuned in, whether that's through your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever it might be, or maybe you're just one of those random people that listens via the website, alaskasportstalk.com.
We
And
do
you can be
have
one of
those.
those. I
We
mean,
do
that
have them.
happens.
We do
Yeah.
have it. That's
I
true.
mean,
Or
there's
YouTube.
or YouTube, however you're getting it. So glad to have you along wherever you are tuned in. Keaton Homer, Isaiah Vreeman along with you on this edition of the Alaska Sports Talk podcast. A lot of stuff to recap in terms of the Alaska Airlines Classic from last week, UAA men's and women's basketball, a little bit of Anchorage Wolverines. Here in a little while, we'll be talking about a special 2A basketball tournament as well that's coming up, that's hosted by the Lumen Christi Archangels, and we'll get a chance to talk with their athletic director, John Warren. More about that here a little bit on this episode of the Alaska Sports Talk podcast. So, how was the weekend, Isaiah? How was it?
Well, it was a great weekend. Started Tuesday, really. It was a long weekend with some of the girls' games over at the Alaska Airlines Center, but it was a busy weekend. I know you were over at the Alaska Airlines Classic and over at West Anchorage there for a lot of that. I was there for a while on Thursday and Friday. Saturday, wasn't able to get it over there. Then went to a Wolverines game in the evening on Saturday. So it was one of those weekends. Busy sports weekend, that's for sure.
Yeah, a lot of sports going on. It's that time of year. I mean, and just in terms of, high school sports, you have a multitude of high school sports going on in terms of girls and boys basketball. And then you have hockey also taking place as well. We didn't even mention that. I mean, we're getting down to the last week of the regular season, I think, for high school hockey, right? This weekend or next weekend?
Well, next weekend will be the last for Division One.
Right.
And that'll be conference tournaments. Division Two, their final weekend is this weekend because they've got conference tournaments next week. Or, excuse me, conference tournaments next week. Oh, wait.
And then state tournaments in 2 weeks, right?
I'm so messed up on my days. I'm looking at next weekend, starting on Thursday, is the state tournament for Division Two. So for Division Two, they're starting into their conference tournaments this weekend.
Right.
And then this is the last regular season week for Division One.
Gotcha. That's what I was thinking. Because, I remember next week, postseason hockey's already here. So we'll have to touch a lot more on that in next week's episode and things of that nature. And then the high school ski season, I feel like has been thrown way off.
It has been.
It's just weird.
It's really been. Yeah, it's totally thrown off. We had to move the state tournament up to Fairbanks. There's no snow. There just isn't.
When's the last time that it's been hosted in Fairbanks, if ever?
Oh, it rotates between.
Oh, does it?
It rotates usually between Anchorage and Fairbanks.
Gotcha.
The Mat-Su Valley started. They hosted it during one of the COVID years, the year after COVID, and then it went back into Anchorage and Fairbanks. But yeah, this year it was supposed to be at Kincaid, and no, they called it. I think it was late last week that we need to get it up to Fairbanks because just isn't any snow here for it.
It's wild. So, it's wild.
It's happened one time that I can remember in the last. No, wait, excuse me. We didn't actually end up moving it. We were able to make snow enough for it, but it was close. We were really close to. Yeah. We were really close to moving it.
Because Kincaid does have the snow making capabilities, right? They got those snow machines. They can make the snow if they need to, but there's not enough snow to start to even
and
really
it's been the temperatures just haven't done enough. And frankly, the snow making machines, while they can take care of a lot of the bowl and some of the trail, they can't do the entire trail because there's nothing out there because the wind and a Chinook in the last however many years has lasted a weekend or maybe 5 days, not 3 weeks. So
right.
It's just one of those things.
If you are listening to this podcast outside of the state of Alaska and kind of wondering what we're talking about, the last 2.5 weeks three
Yeah.
weeks, like you said, Isaiah, the weather's just been abnormally warm, and we're talking in the upper to mid, 40s
Yeah.
at times,
Yeah.
upper 30s, mid 40s, and it was like breakup season around here in January, which
It
is
felt like
typically one of the
March.
coldest. It did. It
It
really
felt like
did.
March.
Outside of the daylight, right? I mean, not
Yeah.
having as much daylight as March has. Uh, you're 100% right. It felt like, okay, well, I guess summertime's right around the corner.
Yep.
But yeah, but now we're back to normal temperatures this week. Like we're supposed to be like single digits and
Yeah.
negative temperatures. So we're back.
We're
Never
back.
fear. We just
At
got
least,
teased.
hey, I'll have to say, I mean, no, it's a little weird. It seems like the winter's a little drunk. It's just a little off. But
Yeah.
I will say, after the last 2 winters of record snowfall, not
Yep.
having to
Yep.
shovel a lot, not having to worry about that, I'm okay
Totally.
with that. I'm okay
Totally.
with that.
Totally.
Although my fence door got ripped off, so yeah, that's a good one. It's just kind of
Yeah.
leaning there and ripped off the hinges. I'm like, wow,
Oh, that
yeah,
sucks.
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well,
That's not normal. That was
we'll,
not normal.
we'll take
It's
care of
all
that in the
twisted.
summertime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all twisted.
Well,
Like, oh
yeah.
crap.
Oh man. I can only imagine like being an insurance adjuster during this time
Oh,
period, like trying to figure out,
no
claims and
thanks.
whatnot. No thanks. Yep.
No
No
thanks.
thanks. Uh, but anyway, we aren't insurance adjusters. We're sports people.
That's right.
So we're going to talk some sports. Mentioned the Alaska Airlines Classic last week over at West Anchorage High School. Tournament started actually on Tuesday with the girls tournament, and then running all the way through Saturday with the boys tournament finishing up. But Tuesday is when all the action really got underway for the tournament, featuring four girls teams. Lumen Christi, actually a part of the tournament at the Alaska Airlines Classic, kind of recap some of the scores from the girls portion of the tournament. West took down Lumen Christi in the opening round, 52-28. Bartlett beat Ketchikan 51-29. It was kind of like a round robin tournament for the
Yep.
girls portion. Everybody played everybody. It wasn't like a true bracket style. So Wednesday, Ketchikan played Lumen Christi. Ketchikan won 50-19. Bartlett beat West 66-48. That's a non-conference game, by the way, just in case you were wondering, since it took place during a tournament. And then Bartlett beat Lumen Christi, and this was a tough one for the Lumen Christi girls, 65-11. And then West beat Ketchikan 54-33. Your tournament MVP, by the way, from Bartlett, Kennedy Gaines winning the tournament MVP, also making the all-tournament team as well. Amira Warren was announced to the all-tournament team for the Lumen Christi Archangels. Aspen Bauer out of Ketchikan. Wednesday, Bethau out of West. And then Sinya Moatega out of Bartlett. I think I said that way. Mogatega.
Sounds right.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. Kennedy Gaines, by the way, for that entire tournament over the course of 3 games for Bartlett, had 69 points.
Yeah, she's good.
So, yeah,
She's good.
That's solid. That's really solid.
Yeah, that's solid. That's
Solid.
really solid.
That's just great. Solid performance. Well-rounded performance there. Also,
I guess
had
she did enough.
17 steals. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
know.
guess
Yeah.
I guess she played okay. I mean,
Okay, he was. I've seen better. No,
Yeah,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
my goodness.
I couldn't do any better. That's for sure. But once again, this is only I think the 3rd year they've had the girls portion of the tournament at the Alaska Airlines. It hasn't been around that long.
I think you're right. I think it's 3 year, maybe
could be
4,
Could
maybe
be.
4. But it's not prior to COVID. Prior to COVID, they didn't have it.
No,
So
no,
I
it was
think
just
this
a
is
boys
year.
tournament.
I think this is year 3.
Yeah. So I think it is year 3 for the girls' side of things. So, and again, great tournament to get things started on Tuesday, going into Wednesday. Thursday was the biggest day because there's 6 games. You had the 2 girls' games, and then you had the 4 boys' basketball games on that Thursday, including the the student body game, they call it, on Thursday, where all of West Anchorage High School gets out of school a little bit early. They all go to down to the gymnasium, and you have like, I don't know, probably close to 2,000 people, I would assume, by the time everybody gets in the gym. You
It's a
think?
lot. Yeah, I'd say
Quite
it's
a few.
easy 1,500. I don't
Okay.
think every single student gets in.
Oh,
You know,
that's a shame.
well, I think some of them aren't allowed in because they don't have grade. I think that's some of the way they do
Oh,
some of that stuff.
fair.
But
Incentive.
it's a it's definitely very highly attended.
All right. It is. It is highly attended. And give you some of the scores from that opening day. West took down Ketchikan 66-60. Ketchikan was actually making a comeback in that game in the late final minute or so, and they got fairly close. I think they got within a possession, but West was able to hang on. And then the Hoover Buccaneers out of Hoover,
Phew.
Alabama. Boy, we're going to talk about them here in a moment. Took down Service 69-26, and that score, even though it seems lopsided, and it is lopsided, it could have been a lot worse.
It could have been way. It was 50-8 at halftime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, they definitely, I think they put in the water boy at one point, but it was a tough draw for Service. So
A brutal draw.
yeah, in your opening round opponent, yeah, that's tough. So the Heritage Christian team out of California defeated Colony 59-36, and then East took down the Columbia Eagles out of Georgia 41-39. So this is the boys' side of things is a true tournament bracket style. So the
Yep.
winners advancing to play in the semifinals. Hoover and the Heritage Christian Warriors. I think that was the game of the tournament on Friday night. That semifinal. I don't know if you had a chance to
It
see that
was.
one, Isaiah.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was there for both semifinal games on Friday, and it was that was definitely a really, really good game.
It's just
It really
different.
was. It's
Those
totally
two
different.
teams. And this is no offense to Alaska basketball. All right, those two teams, the makeup of those two squads, the way that they play, it is completely different basketball. It just is. The athletes that they have, it's insane. I mean, we don't
Yeah.
see 6'9", 6'10" guys consistently here in the state of Alaska.
No, and
And if
definitely
we
not
do,
two of them on one team.
exactly, and the way that these 6'9", 6'10" dudes can move up and down the floor, entire game, like don't need a breather either. It's just like, whoa, this is different. It's different, and it was
Well, somebody explained it to me, and I think this was a good way to look at it. I think this was a coach long ago at one of the coaching clinics or something that I went to years and years ago. But it was the difference. We had a player who could dunk and jump and all those kind of things. Lonnie Ridgway,
yeah,
he could do all that stuff. And in high school, he could do all those things, but he really had to kind of gear his body up, and then he could explode. It took effort, all that kind of stuff. I think that was one of the biggest things when you see some of these bigger individuals and some of these incredible athletes is it just looks so effortless. I
Yeah.
mean, I think those guys could have done 20 up downs and not lost a beat on any of those things just because their explosiveness is so quick and so fast. Lonnie was explosive, but there's just a difference between that kind of explosiveness that quickly over and over and over and over again.
right.
It was incredible. I actually a few times, I don't know if you saw this or not, Keaton, but I took some video and posted it on our social media, Alaska Sports Talk, on Instagram and Facebook. And I got a couple of the dunks, not all of them, because boy, it was hard you just couldn't keep filming long enough for some of that stuff. But it's just incredible. It just looks different when the big guy, I think it was 35 for Hoover, he's down the middle of the key against Service. I mean, there's just there's nothing that they could have done. Nothing.
Well, I mean, yeah,
it's just-
Dwayne Brown, their big center,
Yeah.
guy's already committed to the University of Tennessee,
Yeah.
right? And he just made things look. I mean, there's and
It's effortless.
Nobody they played, whether it was Service or East in the championship game, the Alaska schools didn't have anybody that can match. Okay, maybe you have one guy, but they have two dudes at 6'9"
And they played them
on their
both at the
team.
same. They played them
Right.
both at the same time a few times
Yeah.
for extended minutes.
Right.
They
And
didn't sub each other out. It was Twin Towers
yeah, good
for
luck to
sure. I
you.
mean,
Yeah.
it was
We have good
incredible.
basketball. We have good high school
We do.
basketball in this state. Really
We do.
good. Fantastic. I just don't know why. I don't know what the difference is when out of state competition comes in. Like, and Grant East beat an out of state team and a good out of state team in Columbia, out of Georgia, in their opening round game. But I just don't know why. It just seems like more often than not, there's a drop when out of state competition comes up here to play an Alaska school, or vice versa. Right? I just don't know why that happens, because we have such good athletes in competition here, but yet when we go visit other teams from the lower 48, it's different. Like I can't explain that. I don't know why.
I think.
don't know why.
Well, I mean, I'll go into the basketball space. I mean, I can't speak to the football space. I have some ideas on that. That's more of your area. But in the basketball space, like that, like Brown who signed at Tennessee. Have we seen some athletes like that up here? Yes.
Yeah.
Boozer comes to mind, Trajan
Sure.
comes to mind. So we've had some. It's not nearly as many as at a place like Georgia or California or that kind of stuff. But when you start to, let's say they can match, let's say an Alaska school can match that, it just goes down the bench. We just don't have
Depth.
it's the depth issue. There's a big part of that is where when our team was really good, we went down to a tournament, we played a New Jersey team, and we could match up pretty much right across the board. But when you get that one player that they had from New Jersey was so much better. He had just come off of football. He was a crazy athlete. I don't know what division school he signed with, but he was just unbelievable. The rest of our depth could handle it. We could handle the rest of the team, but that one player was just so far superior. And then you flip that. I've seen it where some of those West teams, they had Ramon Harris and some of those other guys.
Yeah,
but it goes back to their depth. Their 6, 7, 8s could win a state title at the 4A level up here by themselves, kind of thing.
No, that's true. No, I'd agree with that. That's a good point. I didn't think of it like that, because, I mean, you're exactly right. Maybe we only have, in terms of a basketball team, we're only going, 8 deep, right? So you got 3 players on the bench who are your go-to guys, and they might have 3 players on the bench, right? They're 8 deep too, but if they want to go to their 9th, 10th, 11th dude, right? Those guys are good. And
they're 6, 7, 8 guys. Again, they could start for any team in the state of Alaska and be all state kind of thing. I mean, it's you get to that depth piece. That to me is where that's where there's some real separation. Obviously, you have the unicorns of some of these players, like a Yesafu, like last year, and Brown this year for who's going to Tennessee. But that's where you really, really see it, is in that some of that depth. And again, the unicorn players like a Yesafu, where what are you gonna do? I mean, really? I mean,
that's like, he's a senior this year. I think he's a senior.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was a junior last year. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think we're going to have to follow up on that. But
yeah, stats and research.
See where he's going. But anyway, that semifinal game between Hoover, Alabama, and Heritage Christian out of California, it was fantastic. It was everything you wanted it to be. It went to overtime. It was a back and forth game. Heritage Christian actually trailed the majority of that time. And what was impressive is that the Warriors of Heritage Christian did, in the final quarter, they had their leading scorer, Tay Simmons, actually fouled out of that game.
Oh, really?
By the way, the 5th foul, in my opinion, against Tay Simmons.
Oh.
I don't criticize officials often, right? But this one, I don't know if it was foul number 5. But nevertheless, he got called for foul number 5 with like 6 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, and they were trailing by like 4 or 5 points. And I'm like, I don't know how they're going to make this up. But they ended up getting some sharp three-point shooting down the stretch, able to hit a couple of buckets, able to get a couple of stops. They got the game to overtime. Dylan Shaw did a majority of the heavy lifting, or at least tried to in overtime, but it wasn't enough. Hoover, Alabama, able to pull it out in the final couple of minutes of OT to win 51-45. And then East and West in a matchup of that's as old as time here in the Anchorage area. Two of the oldest high schools playing in that semifinal game. Again, not a non-conference game in this essence between the Thunderbirds and the Eagles. Thunderbirds winning 47-42 to advance to the championship game. Mohamed Sabali leading the way there for East in that game to help power them over the West Anchorage Eagles. So your championship game, I think we probably all maybe looking at the bracket may have thought that this would be the championship game, Hoover and East. And before the tournament started, I would say, yeah, all right, of the Alaska teams to make it, I wouldn't be surprised if East did. Should.
Right.
Yep. West is really young. West has 2 seniors on their roster, by the way. Everybody else, a sophomore. So that team's going to be really good in the next couple of years.
It's going to be a handful.
Yeah, that's definite. Service, there's been a lot of shakeup during the offseason with service and players going in and out and things of that nature. It's just kind of a little bit of a roller coaster. But Coach Weiss has kind of smoothed things out over the last little while. But, their opening round opponent, you're like, yeah, they're not getting past Hoover. But they performed well later on in the tournament. The Cougars did against their other opponents in Colony and then also Ketchikan as well. They actually ended up beating Ketchikan 63-52. Ketchikan is the other school from the state of Alaska that took place in this tournament. They had a tough draw, but of all the schools from the state of Alaska, you thought East was going to be in the championship game. I wasn't sure who out of schools yet. We knew that Hoover, Alabama, 2-time defending state champion in Alabama. They won some absurd amount of games in a row, like 28 games in a row.
It was 35 over, from the last time they lost and carried over into this year. And then they just won another 3, so 38 in a row.
Yeah, it's nuts.
That's crazy.
So if you're looking at the pre-tournament thing and trying to figure out who's going to win, we could have projected probably Hoover and East going into this game. I don't know. I figured that East would hang around maybe for a little while. And they did, but then Hoover they're too much. I think they're going to have to win another state title again in Alabama. I would not, with all the seniors they have, the talent that they have, that team is just loaded. So again, it's just something we don't see up here that often. And it was an eye-opening experience for the Thunderbirds, I think, in that championship game.
I think you're absolutely right. No doubt about that.
But I think, what's the record for East against Alaska opponents now, Isaiah? Do you remember? I think it's like they've won 27 in a row, 28 in a row against Alaska opponents.
It's right around 30.
Right.
It's right. I mean, it's right around 30 because they're 2-time defending state champs. I think the last loss they had against a team in Anchorage, or I should say in Alaska, was in that state title game.
Okay.
To South.
Okay.
I
don't remember. I'm trying to recall.
I don't remember either.
Could be, but I don't recall. We'll have to again stats and research. Somebody get on that.
Stats and research. Get on that.
We got to get that person a paid gig. I think.
Yeah, I think we
maybe it could be John.
Maybe John can do it.
Oh, speaking of, John Warren joining us from Lumen Christi High School, the athletic director of the Archangels. And John, would you want to be on our team for stats and research, you think?
I'll delegate.
Delegate. Okay.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yes, we were trying to help. Just help us out. Do a little. Okay. All right. We were just talking about the Alaska Airlines Classic and how great of a tournament that was. You guys have a tournament that is coming up, the 2A Conference Clash. A lot of fantastic teams from around the state of Alaska, and I mean around the state of Alaska. Yeah. You got to come in from all over the Alaska map here.
Just kind of tell us, a little bit about this year's tournament and maybe the teams coming up and things of that nature.
Certainly. The tournament kind of came about actually with some conversations in the past with Billy Strickland at ASA about how difficult it is to find crossover games for a lot of teams because, to travel to Southeast to get a game, it becomes expensive to go down there and get one or two games. You want more bang for your buck. Getting out to Western Alaska, same issue. Those teams, travel in, but they're trying to get a lot of games in. It becomes very challenging for them schedule-wise, so they don't get a lot of games. So kind of with our move to 2A this year, it kind of fell into place with the facility at Lumen that we can host something like this. We thought, let's see what's going to happen. We'll host conference clash, and we'll take two teams from each conference kind of and rotate as each year, kind of look at what teams are doing and who we think might be strong, contenders for state possibly, and bring them in and get a chance to get those crossover games and get those teams a lot of quality games while they're here. So this year with the 16 teams, 8 boys, 8 girls teams, we have Petersburg and Metlakatla out of Southeast. We have Hooper Bay and Unalakleet out of the West. We have Cordova and Nana out of the Interior Conference, and then Sioux Valley and Lumen Christi out of the Southern Conference. So I built kind of 2 brackets. So there's one team from each conference in each bracket on the boys and girls side, and teams won't see each other. The only way a team will see someone from their conference is if both teams make it to the championship game or somehow through the consolation game on Saturday, they end up in the same place. And other than the championship game, I kind of told the coaches I reserve the right to kind of make adjustments so they're not having to play someone they're going to see several times in conference. We want to give them someone else to play. So it should be exciting, but it's a lot of basketball starting 8 a.m. Thursday morning.
Yeah, it certainly is a lot of basketball. So starting this Thursday, 8 a.m., as you mentioned, John, all the way through Saturday evening as well, culminating into the championship games. I want to know the planning that went into this. What type of work on the back end, trying to get everybody organized and teams into this tournament? How long ago did you guys start planning for this tournament?
I started talking to teams right after the state tournament last year, after the idea came around, like, let's think about doing something like this. Started talking to teams. Of the 16 teams that are in the tournament this year, 12 were at state last year. Lumen boys and girls in 1A state tournament. The other 10 were in the 2A state tournament. Petersburg boys won, Metlakatla girls won. They're both in the tournament this year. So talking to them, and most of the coaches and activity directors, athletic directors jumped on the idea because, again, the whole idea was in the past it was trying to figure out the large bids or seeding. Well, now that everybody's getting 2 bids, there's still the seeding component, and they want to see teams from other conferences to get a feel for what people have. And we didn't want to do it at the very beginning of the season because, teams are still trying to figure themselves out. And so this is kind of the midpoint of the season. Everybody's kind of got themselves going in the right direction. They've kind of dialed in what their style is, who the main players are. So it's kind of a nice time to do it. But yeah, it's been planning since right after state last year. As I've told people, the tournament's great. It's the logistics that are going to kill me. If I can make it to the tournament, I'll be thrilled. But the logistics on the back end are the hard part.
Well, I can only imagine, trying to find you have all these teams coming and trying to find places to stay for these teams, food and lodging and all. How is all that? How have you juggled that? What do you have a team behind you, or has it been you as a one-man show that's kind of prepared and done all this?
I get a lot of support from the admin at our school, and our coaches are helping out a lot. But the nice thing about, fortunately being in Anchorage with teams coming in, lodging, everybody has connections, either a hotel or Airbnb has become the big thing now for teams that travel in.
Yeah.
It's much more cost effective for them, and they get a house. They can be on their own schedule. They're not having to get out of classrooms at 7 a.m. So the housing component's been pretty easy for everybody. It's just kind of pointing them in the right direction, helping them find places when they're looking. Food-wise, everybody's glad to come to Anchorage because we have every fast food place, plus Texas Roadhouses and Chili's and things. So they're all excited to do those things. It's really the logistics side. It's been more of, and I've been talking to Isaiah a lot over the past several months, just kind of figuring out how to figure out the timing, and how to juggle getting the officials lined out, and just where all those little things that can kind of fall through the cracks that surprise you, but you don't want to have it surprise you right as a game's about to start.
Yep.
Right.
You want that to go smoothly for the teams. And I've told the coaches, this is our first year. There's a lot of coaches that I respect that have a lot of experience that have done this for a long time. And so talking to them after we get done with the tournament and get their feedback a week or two out about, hey, what were the strong points? What are things that, seem like we could do better? Or what would you leave out that didn't really seem that relevant? What would you leave out and add to replace it? And kind of, over the years, we'll start building it for next year and just start taking that in to where we can get a really smooth, streamlined process, down the road. But it is the first year. But I will have to say, so far, it's gone pretty smoothly. The logistics of trying to get everything dialed in. There's a lot of late nights, long nights this last week or so, just with a little minutia. But it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, all I heard there is that, since Isaiah had a hand in it, if something goes wrong,
yeah,
there's,
exactly.
there's Isaiah.
And then,
It was his idea. Clearly, it was his idea. I should
his
have
fault. Hey, you're just warming people up for March. It's all right. I get it. Yeah. Just
You're
warm
the
up for
punching
March.
bag here in about a month, right? When things go
much.
wrong at March Madness, right? Oh man. You're obviously a part of the Lumen Christi family there, obviously the athletic director. I don't think a lot of people know about Lumen Christi basketball. Kind of tell us about your girls program and your boys program and how they're doing this year. I think people would be interested.
So I've been the athletic director there for 8 years now. When I came on board, we had 64 students in the school, grades 7 through 12. It was pretty low numbers, but with COVID and with all the things that have happened since then and people looking for alternatives, we're now sitting at about 140 students, 7 through 12. So it's a very much more robust full school. And with that, all our sports programs have grown. Our basketball program with Adam Trombley came in and took over the boys' job my second year at Lumen, came in and did a fantastic job, got the boys dialed in. I'm pretty sure would have won the state title the year that the tournament got canceled right at spring break. Like we just came off our region tournament and COVID ended up canceling the tournament that year. But they were a powerhouse. And then the next year came back to the state tournament, beat Tanana in the final to win the title. Had a great year. And as the boys were picking up, our girls were slowly coming along and developing, from going to having never even won a region title to winning a region title, and now consistently going to state every year as a 1A team for both our boys and girls. And now we've made that progression. They won state 2 years ago, and now we've made the progression. We've jumped to 2A, which is based on our school size we're going to do anyway. And it's a great fit with the conference we're in. We're back to some old rivals that we had in the past, plus a lot of new ones, getting schools like Seward now in our conference. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of teams that we've played traditionally because we've always tried to play up. We play a lot of 3A, 4A teams at the beginning of the season just to push our players and, let them see what level they need to be at to be successful. And then let that filter down as we get into our conference schedule. So overall, it's been all our programs, but basketball is kind of our flagship. It's the most visible because it's the longest season, but it's also, Alaska lives and dies with basketball and volleyball, but basketball especially. So it's been our flagship, and it's done a great job. The coaches we've had in place, we have Kenny Barker now on the girls' side. He's been coaching the last couple of years, coached our state title, going to his third year now, and has a great staff with him too, just like our boys' side does. We have actually a former Lumen graduate Pat Moran is now our boys' coach for the last 2 years, and has done a great job developing our team. So it's nothing but looking bright, and the future is going to be strong for them. It's laying that foundation. I think we've done that now, so now we can continue to grow going forward.
I think your girls team get to play in back-to-back tournaments, right? They took place in the Alaska Airlines Classic last week, and they got to play some upper-level competition like you were talking about, and now they get to come back and host this tournament and kind of get back into the 2A realm of things. I don't know, and I've asked Isaiah this before, the number of tournaments that are out there, are you a proponent of playing in more tournaments? Obviously, back-to-back tournaments, that's a lot of games in a short time span. What's your thoughts and things of that nature?
I will say we've spaced our tournaments out to some extent. This year we've been the Road Warrior team the month of January. We played two conference games, Friday, Saturday, January 3rd and 4th, right before school started. We were in school Monday, Tuesday, and then our girls went to Nome for the Subway shootout. And so they were in Nome through Sunday. No school on Monday because of weather in Anchorage. They were in class Tuesday, and then both boys and girls left for Cordova for a tournament Wednesday through Sunday. Got back Sunday night, conference game Monday, and then the girls played in the West Alaska Airlines Classic at West Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then our boys left Wednesday for Point Hope, and they just got back Sunday night. So this is actually, the girls have enjoyed their break Friday through yesterday to get a break, and then now it's back at it for the tournament, and then we'll get a little downtime after this. But I like the tournaments because we mix it up. So we go, like you said, we went to Alaska Airlines Classic with the girls, so they're definitely, much bigger weight class to be fighting in to go back. Yeah. But that's where they get the experience. So when they come back and play in the 2As and things like that, everything seems like it's almost a little slower. It makes more sense to them. You're not facing, a Kennedy from Bartlett who's just a powerhouse. You're not seeing that, so it's a great experience for them. And I like to send our teams all over the state. I mean, I want them to see and experience things, because at the end of the day, 10 years from now, no one talks about their home game. Everybody talks about what happened on the road trip. We went to this place. Remember when we did this? And that's the experiences the kids remember, and that's what I want them to have. Even though we're in Anchorage and we could just sit here and let everybody come to us, I don't want to do that. I want to send my kids out to places. We went to Fort Yukon last year for games, Point Hope this year. We go to Nome. We'll go to Bethel. We'll go anywhere, and I want them to get those experiences.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Getting out there and experiencing the state of Alaska, and see what not just teams have to offer, but what other communities have to offer. And I think just kind of diving into that, that's a cool way to experience it through high school athletics. From your standpoint, when this thing kicks off on Thursday, what are you most looking forward about this tournament coming up? I know it's going to be a busy week for you, but I'm sure you're looking forward to some things, during the tournament.
I'm excited to see, because we really haven't seen or played Southeast teams at all, like in the time I've been at Lumen, whether one or two. Like, we'll see with the state tournaments. That's the only time we may run across them, like a Kloak in the 1A or like a Petersburg now. And so being able to have a Petersburg and a Metlakatla with, Metlakatla, playing at their place, you see the videos, you hear about it, it's just a phenomenal experience. But having them come to us and, start this to where we have a chance to go down to them at some point. I'd love our teams to go down there. So it's those little building blocks and the experiences, seeing some of these teams that we haven't seen yet and that we'll get to see finally, is what really matters.
No, it's going to be an exciting tournament for you guys. That's for sure. Isaiah, anything to add before we let John go here?
No, I'm just looking forward to it. I'm excited for it. I know that you've got you're working on the NFHS network camera there and working on that, so people can watch and stream that if they can't get over there. And I plan on doing that. I plan on trying to get over there as much as I can on Thursday and just kind of parking myself there and watching, because Keaton and I have talked about it a lot. Is some of the 1A and 2A teams, we want to talk about a lot of that stuff, but we don't really ever get to see them. It's a lot harder to see them, and this is a perfect tournament to be able to do that. The conference clash. And I know when you mentioned this, months and months ago, that I was really excited about it. I think it's a great opportunity for the teams and for Lumen Christi and all that. So just kudos to you guys for putting this on. It's going to be awesome.
No, I appreciate it. Now I'm looking forward to it. I think it's just, like I said, it's fun for the kids to just a chance to see other teams and experience things, and see some of the teams, for a lot of them, that they might be seeing at state here another short window. They're going to be back facing some of these teams again. So it's going to be a neat experience for them.
No, it certainly will. The 2A conference clash kicks off on Thursday, goes all the way through Saturday, starts at 8 a.m. on Thursday morning. Before we let you go, I was kind of doing a little bit of research, John. I know you're a big soccer guy. You got the soccer thing on. Who's got better soccer, the Portuguese or the Brazilians?
Being half Brazilian, I'm going Brazil.
Okay.
Oh, well, there you go.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
makes sense.
Fair
Okay.
enough. Fair enough. We'll save that story for another episode when we have John on. So, John Warren of Lumen Christi, thanks for joining us here on the Alaska Sports Talk podcast. We look forward to seeing you at the tournament on Thursday.
No, thank you, guys. I appreciate the time. Take care.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
Appreciate it. No, it's going to be a great tournament. This tournament's going to be fun.
It really
it's
is.
going to be really cool, a unique experience. If you can make it out there on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, it's going to be at Lumen Christi. And then you can buy your tickets online right now, actually. I think I saw that. Didn't I see that?
Yep. If you want the brackets, go to ASAA365.com, the basketball page. There's a little place there that says regular season tournaments. You click that. It'll also be in the bio or the podcast information for this tournament or for this episode as well. And you'll be able to click it and head right over there. But there's a place where you can buy your tickets online for that as well. So I would highly suggest doing that, because I think that place will fill up pretty good.
I think so. And especially as we get on into the Friday sessions and then on to Saturday when the championships are held as well. I think it's definitely going to be a packed gymnasium, that's for sure. Again, the teams that are coming up: Nenana, Unalakleet, Sioux Valley, Metlakatla, Cordova, Hooper Bay, Petersburg, and then of course the host Lumen Christi, all taking part in this year's first year, I should say, 2A Conference Clash tournament. So hopefully it's the first year of many of the 2A Conference Clash tournament, because I don't know if any other tournaments organize like what John was talking about in terms of having these conferences and how they're trying to avoid matchups within conference during the tournament.
No, generally not. What I know, years and years ago, the RPI or WPI at that point, a lot of tournaments, if they would try to get 4 3A teams and 4 4A teams, and then try and match up the 3As versus the 4As, so that inevitably, if the 4As ended up winning, they would have those semifinals that would count for the WPI, and the 3A teams wouldn't, obviously. So there was some of that type of jury rigging, so to speak. But again, that was not very much, and it didn't happen that terribly often with a lot of the tournaments. So for the 2A level, I can say this is definitely the first of its kind, really, in reality. So that's what makes it a little pretty exciting.
No, it's cool. Looking forward to it. It's going to be fun weekend again, starting on Thursday morning at Lumen Christi for the 2A Conference Clash. So we've talked a lot of high school basketball. I think maybe we should jump it up a notch, go up a level, maybe college, talk a little UAA hoops, maybe?
Yeah, well, just want to mention, we would talk a little bit more high school hoops, but there's a lot of games going on right now. So this is a big night for conference, for the Northern Lights Conference and the Cook Inlet Conference. We're taping this on Tuesday night. So there's a lot of games going on right now. I saw the Diamond girls beat the West girls by 1 at West. There's a lot of things going on. I know Grace is playing at Colony tonight as well. So there's a lot of things going on, and that will definitely shape some of the RPI that's happened, or that we have right now. Some of that will get adjusted after this night for sure.
Yeah, you get into conference play, at this point in the season. Yep, some things are going to get shaken up, that's for sure. So we'll keep our eye out on some of those scores as we go along. And it's hard to believe, a little over, a month from now? Is that what we're looking at, March Madness already?
Yeah,
I think we were saying selection show on March 9th.
Selection show is March 9th. Conference tournaments basically start the last week of February for 1A schools. There is just so people know, there is a countdown counter for March Madness on the ASAA.org page. And frankly, every now and then I got to go to the basketball page and edit the web page and add things, blah, blah, blah. And that countdown counter is super exciting, but also incredibly scary. Right now it says 42 days, 10 hours, 9 minutes, and 33 seconds till tip off. So days I have left to miss, and then add 2 weeks, and then I can take a day off.
There you go. Well, as we move on, let's jump up a level, and we'll go into college basketball, talking UAA hoops after last weekend. Both the men's and women's teams were on the road. They are back home this weekend. Also, should make note, we'll have Ryan McCarthy on a special UAA head coaches podcast, kind of previewing the games next week. Episode should drop tomorrow night.
We'll record that tomorrow night, but then you can pick it up and listen to it Thursday prior to the games and kind of get everything that's kind of happened in the past week, and then also previewing this week's games when the UAA women get ready to take on Central Washington and Northwest Nazarene. Kind of recap things that happened last week. We'll start with the men's basketball side of things. It's been a rough time for men's basketball right now. We are in a dark spot here in terms of win-loss. Seawolf men's basketball team, they have now lost 5 in a row. They have not won since January 4th when they beat Western Washington in Bellingham. And now they have the Vikings coming up again, this time at home at the Alaska Airlines Center this Thursday at 7:30. So maybe this could be the turning of a leaf here potentially as they try to sweep Western Washington for the regular season series. But the men's team, it has been tough over the last 5 games. And it's not like the men's team has gotten blown out during these 5 losses. I mean, 71-63 loss to Northwest Nazarene, 64-52 loss to Central Washington. You had the heartbreaking loss against UAF, 76-74. I'm not going to bring that up again because we've talked about it too much. And then the last 2 games against Seattle Pacific and Montana State Billings, UAA lost by 4 to Seattle Pacific in Seattle, 64-60. And then they lost at Billings by 2, 66-64. So, I mean, they're right there.
They are right there.
A few little breaks of the game here and there. I mean, the last 3 losses, are you kidding me? The last 3 losses by a combined, 8 points? Yeah. I
Brutal.
mean, that's tough. And right now, in terms of the GNAC standings, where the guys are ranked, hold on, let me pull up the GNAC standings. Right now, if you thought they were in must-win spots, the last couple of weeks, for the men, these games are crucial just from the standpoint of trying to make the GNAC conference tournament. Because coming into this weekend, the men's team, who is 3-6, all right, men are 3-6. Right now, the Seawolves are the number 8 spot in the conference, all right, behind Montana State Billings and behind Western Washington. Okay, so 2 teams they played Billings last week, but now they play Western Washington this week. Western Washington's at 4-5, UAA at 3-6. If they were to drop this game, I mean, I'm not saying it's detrimental to them, their ability to make the conference tournament, but it would look very bleak in terms of trying to get into the top 6, right? They would be 2 games back, essentially, of that number 6 spot if they were to lose to Western Washington this week. So it is a huge game for the Seawolves to not only just end a 5-game losing streak, but to keep their postseason chances alive. So I don't know if I've ever seen a Rusty Osborne team that has suffered more brutal losses, during a stretch than what has happened, not just over the last 5, but over the last 3. And I don't have answers. I really don't. Other than scoring droughts, that's been the thing that has plagued UAA. I mean, going on 2, 3, 4-minute scoring droughts, and teams just slowly, either UAA is up by a handful of points and teams come back, or UAA gets within a possession and they go on a scoring drought, as they're trying to make a comeback. I mean, that's been it. But frustrating, to say the least. And I'm sure, and that's just me as a guy calling the games. I can only imagine what is happening in the locker room and how frustrated the players are at this point. But hopefully they can channel the energy going into Thursday and Saturday. The men's basketball team playing Western Washington on Thursday, and then Simon Fraser on Saturday afternoon. The women's basketball team faring a lot better in terms of the win-loss record. The women's basketball team, they are coming off of their first loss in conference, however. They lost to Montana State Billings, the number 20 ranked team in the nation, 70-55. But the Seawolves have suffered some injuries. as of late. Hedakune had an injury last week, didn't play. I don't know if she played this past weekend on the road, but then also the Seawolves losing Tori Hollingshead after an injury in Seattle Pacific, right? After a 90-54 victory against the Falcons. Didn't have her against Montana State Billings, and they lost by 15, 70-55. So I'll be curious to ask Coach Ryan McCarthy in terms of the injury bug, like where they're at, because now they were 8 deep. Now they're 7, right?
Yeah.
And so we're like,
you mentioned that.
Where are we going? Playing Division II, playing any level of college basketball with 7 people, tough, very tough.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Kind of get an update through the injury, wise where UAA is standing. Prior to that loss, by the way, the Seawolves, they had rattled off, let's see, I think it was 7 in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7 wins in a row prior to losing to Montana State Billings. Seawolves are still in first place, by the way, in the conference coming into the weekend. The women's basketball team sits at the top of the division as we take a look at the conference standings for the GNAC on the women's side of things. UAA is in first place. Montana State Billings behind them in second place at 7-2. Seawolves are 8-1. Billings 7-2. Central Washington 7-2, and Northwest Nazarene 6-3. So these 2 games coming up for UAA against Central Washington and Northwest Nazarene, huge games to be able to stay at the top of the conference. Remember, the top 2 teams in the GNAC get a first round bye in the conference tournament. So it's just something to keep your eye on there. So anyway, the biggest thing for the women's basketball team right now, the injury situation. We got to find out how severe these injuries are, and if the Seawolves are going to be down to 7 active, maybe 8. We'll see. So I can only imagine what Shana Afo, Ryan McCarthy, Jalen McCullough, Jenna McCarthy, all racking their brain. I'm like, well, who's going to play this week?
Well, what are we going to do?
It's going to be a bleak moment when you look down the bench. Like, who can we go to? And you have more people in warm-up gear, right, than jerseys.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's not good.
That's not so good.
Yeah. So anyway, well, I'll ask him about that tomorrow. So men's and women's basketball back at the Alaska Airlines Center on Thursday and Saturday. You can get your tickets online at GoSeawolves.com as we come down the stretch, the final month of the college basketball season coming up.
It's a big one.
It's a big
Absolutely
one.
huge.
It's a big one.
It's huge.
All right. So we've talked a lot of hoops, obviously. The Wolverines, I think, last week, they played at home, but they lost 2 in a row, right?
Yeah,
2 games.
they dropped both games to the Kenai River Brown Bears. That they were sitting at first. Granted, it was only a point in the standings, but they dropped down to third. And those were brutal losses. I wasn't at the game on Friday, but at the game on Saturday was tough. I mean, they were up 3-1 with about 4 minutes left in the third. And to Kenai's credit, I mean, they pulled their goalie early. I mean, they pulled him with about 5 minutes left. They're just like, hey, we're just gonna go. And the Wolverines had plenty of opportunities to score the empty net. They didn't. Wolverines cut it, or the Kenai River Brown Bears cut it to 1. Then they got it at the point, laser shot off of a rebound, kind of turnover-ish in the center ice, or I should say center of the zone, and they put it right in the back of the net. And then overtime, it was tie, and they went to a shootout and ended up winning the shootout. So definitely that was a tough one. But this weekend's huge. This weekend is really, really big. You've got the first time the Fairbanks Ice Dogs have come down to the Sullivan Arena. So Friday and Saturday, 7:30. I'm expecting some huge crowds, huge crowds.
Okay.
It was about 3,500 people on Saturday. It was a raucous, wild crowd. It was
Nice.
awesome. But I'm expecting at least, I would say 4,000 easy. And everyone in Anchorage, just so you know, the Fairbanks Ice Dogs say, hey, they're buying up like 1,000 tickets and they just want to fill this Sullivan and kind of put out the Anchorage fans. So just telling everybody that that's what's going on. So if you're a hockey fan, you're definitely going to want to get down there. Fairbanks or Anchorage. It's going to be wild.
Right. Any special promotions going on with those games? I didn't see anything on the website. I didn't know if you were privy to some giveaways or anything like that.
Sometimes on Wednesday they'll do tickets half off. So I would definitely check out AnchorageWolverines.com and check that out. But I would also look at, they do a really nice job on social media. So Anchorage Wolverines on Instagram, you can usually find some information there. They do a great job of pumping out some information and specials. And they usually on a Wednesday will try and do, half off or something like that. So
gotcha. Cool.
I would keep an eye out, but it's going to be a wild scene in there on Friday and Saturday, I'm guessing.
Well, we're going to have to talk more hockey now that we're starting to get into, the throes of hockey season, postseason hockey for high school, and then, start getting into the later stages of the regular season here for the Anchorage Wolverines. We'll have to have Coach Nick Walters on.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well. So, we'll get a little bit more hockey, a little bit more puck action. A little hockey. So, anything else to add before we sign this one off?
I would just say double check ASAA365.com. There's lots of high school stuff going on. That's a great place to get scores, but also upcoming on what's happening this weekend. Also check it out just so you can check out the 2A conference clash. If you're somebody who played basketball at Petersburg or went to Petersburg or some of these other schools that are there, definitely going to want to check that tournament out. And if you're just a basketball fan, there's not a lot of other tournaments going on this weekend as far as high school tournaments. There are some, but really this is the big one. I would definitely highly recommend going down there to check it out over at Lumen Christi on Thursday through Saturday.
Should be fun. Be a good tournament. So be sure you go to, like Isaiah said, ASAA365.com. You can get all the tournament information there, and also you can get your tickets online as well in advance prior to even arriving to Lumen Christi as well. So, that's going to do it for this edition of the Alaska Sports Talk podcast. Be sure you follow up with our next episode. We'll have Ryan McCarthy on, getting things previewed for this weekend's games coming up for the UAA women's basketball team as they get ready to take on Central Washington and Northwest Nazarene. So that will do it for this episode. For Isaiah Vreeman, I'm Keaton Homer signing it off. Get out there and support Alaska Sports.